Good evening to our cherished listeners. And then I'm also very happy to be here at this very important national dialogue on the free SHS program. And my union is still of TUC Ghana. I'm the national chairman. So where I disagree immediately is the tuition. Because ever since I even started school in those days, none of us paid tuition. So, and there has been no tuition before the implementation of the free SHS program. That is what I disagree with.
Okay, all right then.
Well,
Thank you.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, thank you very much. But I mean, to be fair, if my submission is going to be subjected to marking and remarking to the extent that every time I have to pause, then probably I don't think
I'll let you have a smooth ride.
Because, I mean, we have listened to so far 4 speakers now.
Yeah.
Each one was allowed to flow. And, I mean, I just pray that same courtesies be also extended to
I would extend that.
particularly when all parties will have the opportunity to talk.
Let's
But, I mean, bottom line is that I am saying that there is no correlation between the cost of prospectus and the free SHS policy. Because, you see, as soon as you mention cost of prospectus, you are essentially mentioning cost of items. Cost of items, the correlation between cost of items, whether it will go high or it will come down, I mean, it's purely economics. And that largely is occasioned by inflationary pressures. So this phone that I'm using, if you bought this phone 5 years ago, definitely the price is going to be different from how much I'll buy this phone today. And even in some cases, the price is also going to even change from when I bought it 5 years ago and how much I'm going to buy it in the next 10 years. So it will be a very simplistic analysis for you to just pick a nominal value in, say, 10 years ago, and then pick out that of this year and say that 10 years ago, parents were paying for prospectus at, say, 1,000 cedis, and that after 10 years, if parents are now paying for prospectus for 6,000, it presupposes that then the free SHS policy has rather burdened parents more. I mean, that argument will be very simplistic, because before you are able to make a very holistic conversation or argument about cost, you have to factor in all inflationary pressures and inflationary factors that has or is existent within the time frame that you are measuring, I mean, whatever analysis that you are doing. I mean, that was just by the way to let Kofi know that you cannot just say that as a result of free SHS, parents are rather paying more. That would be a very simplistic analysis for anybody to make. And again, is that also not the more reason why that some way, somehow, government may also have to intervene and even reduce the burden? That is why I've always insisted that it all boils down to how you see the free SHS policy. Whether you see it as an investment policy or you see it as a policy of expenditure. If you see it as an investment policy, your narrative, your thinking, your embracing of the policy will be different from how you see it when you consider it as an expenditure. Of course, I have heard sections of Ghanaians saying that other sectors of the economy probably is not doing well because they believe that a lot of monies are being charged into the free SHS policy. But look, what occasioned the free SHS even in the first place? You see, we've always made a point, and that has been the significant point from the Education Minister, Dr. Yoseduchim. He said that education is largely anchored on 3 key variables. The first one is access, the second has to do with quality, and then the third has to do with relevance. And when you talk about relevance, we are talking about the impact of education on the socio-economic transformation. So we have to situate all this conversation in that right proper or that very proper context. How do we situate it in the context? The context is what is the link of education and socio-economic transformation as a people. Are we ready to transform our fortunes as a people? Are we ready to change as a people? Are we ready to boost our economy as a people? Those are the fundamental questions that we have to ask. If the answer is in the affirmative yes, then the principle is how then do we get there? We can only get there through investing in education. So from us, from the Ministry of Education, and of course the President of Ghana, the free SHS policy is an investment policy. Investment in the areas of access. Because, I mean, if you look at the enrollment data, for instance, if you look at 2014, for instance, 2014, in terms of the number of students that were placed, that is about 38,600, I say 38,600 No, it's around, sorry, 386,412.
Okay.
Out of this number, only 273,152 represents about 70.69% actually went to school enrolled.
Okay.
Now compare this same figure to 2023. In 2023, 554,034 SHS students were placed. And out of this number, you have 504,580 apparently taking up the admission and getting enrolled. That's about 91.7%. Beyond that, beyond even the percentage statistics, let me make it in simple terms for you. Before the free SHS policy, every year when students graduate from BEC and they have to go to proceed to the senior high schools, at least you have a minimum of 100,000 students that were denied access to education, higher education, of course, largely because of these cost barriers that we've already highlighted. And even the number of students that also proceeds to the senior high schools, by the time they get to second year, you have about 20% of them dropping. So at least virtually, we look into the faces of ordinary Ghanaians, children. Of course, the strategy has always been that you use, how do you call it, barriers like your grading system. You put a mark or a benchmark on it. If you do not get A grade or B grade, you are not eligible to go to school, instead of probably giving them opportunity to justify themselves. So every year, as a country, we look into the faces of more than 100,000 Ghanaian youth, Ghanaian students, and just deny them access to education. Now, I've already indicated that the whole essence of education is the relevance of it, the link between education and socio-economic transformation. As I speak with you, our gross tertiary enrollment ratio just went a little about 20%. And all over the world, no country has ever developed without their gross tertiary enrollment ratio hitting about 40% mark. Where are you going to get the students moving up to the tertiary level? They obviously have to come from the basic school level to the secondary level and to the tertiary level. Every country that has developed in this world, at least their gross tertiary enrollment ratio, the mark is about 40%. You look at Botswana, 40%. You look at America, 76%. You look at Singapore, 40%. You look at South Korea, around 96%. These are countries that have developed. And you sit here in Ghana and make an argument that you are going to compete with these countries at a time where your gross tertiary enrollment ratio is still less than 20%. Of course, it's recently that we were able to boost it more than 20%. So what essentially means is that we had a very long way to go. But of course, a president comes in, he's saying that I'm going to intervene using the leapfrog approach to make sure that we give a lot of access so that we also be able to get more people to enter the tertiary, increase our gross tertiary enrollment ratio. Then you have an impact on the relevance, and bingo, you hit the socio-economic transformation that the country is looking at. So, like I indicated, it depends on how you see it. Of course, I am also not oblivious of the fact that you also have to look at the quality component, because the fact that you are talking about access does not necessarily mean that you just have to be producing anything. Because if you are talking about access and the kind of graduates you are churning out are not the best, essentially, obviously, it's going to have an impact on your socio-economic transformation that you are looking at. So yes, concerns about quality that has been raised, they are very legitimate concerns and ought to be looked at. But for me, I would say that as a people, certainly we are not obviously where we have to be. But where we used to be we are certainly not there. Because the data, for instance, if you look at all the in terms of even the phrase such as the outcome, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, you realize that the free SHS graduates are the only years in the past 9 years that more than 50% of the candidates obtain A1 to C6. So there has been significant boost. Today, just last year, looking at Northern Region having an enrollment of about 91%, unprecedented, the highest. So yes, on the face value, just like any other policies, if you give me pen and paper to less challenges we have in other sectors of the economy, everybody is going to get for you. So a lot of the challenges, I want us to situate this within the proper context. That these challenges were not occasioned necessarily by the free SHS. If for any other reason we should see any free SHS in any light, it should be in the light of an investment. Of course, I have listened, in London, I have listened to other presenters making a case that we should be able to target, students and parents who are poor and provide those pro-poor interventions to them. But of course, a country that has not even gotten that very concrete and right database to be able to distinguish the salaries, particularly within those in the informal category, how do you then look into somebody's face and say, I'm going to deny you education because I know the tax component your father is paying, or I know the salary or the profit that your father is making at the expense of others? So, I mean, it has to be a very aggressive intervention to be able to make sure that we get to the level that we are.
Let me bring